राधा माधव कुंज विहारी गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा राम हरे राम 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 हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 राम हरे राम हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 राम हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 राम ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तरशत श्री श्रीमद् डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय चरणारविंद भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की ब्रजभूमि वृंदावन धाम की मथुरा धाम की द्वारकापुरी धाम की पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की श्री मायापुर नवदीप धाम की गंगा मैया यमुनामयी की भक्ति देवी तुलसी देवी की समावेत भक्त वृंद की ऑल ग्लोरीज टू assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुः उन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Welcome all of you for the Srimad Bhagavatam class today. This morning we are reciting from the Srimad Bhagavatam 4th canto, chapter 3, text number 18. नैतादृशानां स्वजनयपेक्षया गृहान् प्रतीयात् अनवस्थितात्मनाम् येभ्यागतान् वक्रधियापि चक्षते आरोपितभ्रूभिरमर्षणाक्षिभिः। नैतादृशानां स्वजनव्यपेक्षया गृहान् प्रतीयात् अनवस्थितात्मनाम् येभ्यागतान् वक्रधियापि चक्षते आरोपितभ्रूभिरमर्षणाक्षिभिः। नैतादृशानां स्वजनव्यपेक्षया गृहान् प्रतीयादनवस्थितात्मनाम् येभ्यागतान् वक्रधियापि चक्षते आरोपितभ्रूभिरमर्षणाक्षिभिः। नैतादृशानां स्वजनव्यपेक्षया गृहान् प्रतीयादनवस्थितात्मनाम् गतान् वक्रधिया विचक्षते Mataji's? नैतादृशानां स्वजनव्यपेक्षया गृहान् प्रतीयादनवस्थितात्मनाम् एतादृशां हृदया विचक्षते आरोपितभ्रूभिरमर्षणाक्षिभिः न not etadrishanam like this svajana kinsman vyapekshaya depending on that grihan in the house of pratiyat one should go anavastita disturbed atmanam mind ye those abhyagatan guests vakradhiya with a cold reception abhichakshate looking at aropita brubhihi with raised eyebrows amarshana angry akshibhihi with the eyes. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki, one should not go to anyone's house, even on the consideration of his being a relative or a friend, when the man is disturbed in his mind and looks upon the guest with raised eyebrows and angry eyes. Purport, however low a person may be, he is never unkind to his children, wife and nearest kin. Even a tiger is kind to its cubs, for within the animal kingdom, the cubs are treated very nicely. Since Sati was the daughter of Daksha, however cruel and contaminated he might be, naturally it was expected that he would receive her very nicely. But here it is indicated by the word anavastita, that such a person cannot be trusted. Tigers are very kind to their cubs, but it is also known that sometimes they eat them. Malicious persons should not be trusted because they are always unsteady. Thus, Sati was advised not to go to her father's house, because to accept such a father as a relative and to go to his house without being properly invited was not suitable. Ideally, one should welcome someone in a very pleasing mood, like the way our Anandamaya Prabhu welcomes everybody. Very smilingly, with open arms. So, whenever I have been coming to this temple, even before I took a responsibility in this temple, he was always very loving, like a loving father here in this temple. Here it is said two words, raised eyebrows, aropita brubhihi, and amarshana means angry, akshibhihi, with eyes. So, even when you have to welcome somebody, you raise your eyebrows, but in a very favorable way. When you see somebody, like that you raise your eyebrows, isn't it? Welcome! But here the raising eyebrows is not like this. Like our Bruva Kutilaya, it is said in the case of our Jaya Vijay. When Jaya Vijay saw four Kumaras coming to the door of Vaikuntha, Bruva Kutilaya, it is said, their eyebrows were twisted and they were raising the eyebrows with the twisted eyebrows, looking at the guest with a suspicion, and they had stout nose, it is said. Nose became little dilated, little big, and the eyes became raktekshana, it is said. Raktekshana means like bloodshot. The inner state of heart becomes expressed externally through the facial expressions. Of course, in some places it is said the face is the index of the mind. So, how we, for example, you go to some place and say, "Oh, your temple is so nice. I wish I could stay 3 days here." If somebody comes and says, you say, "Oh, we are not very sure whether guest house will be available for you. Also, our prasadam is only 2 times a day. You can't get 3 times." If somebody says like that, what do you decode from that? You are not welcome so much. If somebody says, "Oh, even if guest house is not there, you can stay in my room, there is no problem. Although I have a small room, I can give my room to you and I can sleep in the veranda. Because to have you for 3 days is so nice. And also, although prasadam is only twice a day, we can give you Rajabhog in the afternoon. That will be very special prasad for you. But we don't want to misuse this opportunity of having you for 3 days. How does it sound? So, it becomes evident for you whenever you go to some place, whether you are welcomed or whether you are not wanted. From the facial expressions, from the speech, from the dealings they show. So from that you get a clue on whether you are unwanted. So in case you know you are not wanted in some place, then what is best thing to do? Not push oneself to go there when somebody is not. That's what Lord Shiva is telling Sati. He is telling that one should not go to anyone's house, even on the consideration of his being a relative or a friend. At least in India I have seen people saying that don't go to that relative's house in that particular city if you are going there. They say, "Why? Oh, we had a tussle with them. Your grandfather had a tussle with their grandfather." Like the people still remember, for generations they remember. They don't forget very easily. They were not treated nicely when they went. So this is a material life. In spiritual life, we don't follow that formula. You had a tussle with a devotee. You don't close your doors for life fully. You are willing to forgive and forget and again reconnect with the devotee. And again attain the blessing of the association of each other. Whereas in material life, sometimes, you see that people completely close the doors for generations. Because there is something like swabhiman, they say, no? People don't want to go to a place where they might be insulted or neglected or mistreated. They want to be saved from that. Because that very greatly injures yourself. And because you can't forget it for a long time, it discourages you. In this world, when you connect with people, you can gain 3 types of experiences: uplifting, and neutral, and not uplifting. So, uplifting association is always sought. It is good for us. You connected with somebody, and both of you felt nice, and you felt uplifting association. It brings you one step closer to Krishna, or it makes you a little more perfect in your behavior and speech. It's good. But somebody's association is neutral, you didn't gain anything by coming closer to them. And then there are people whose association is not uplifting, which is very bad. Because like you by coming closer to someone, you feel very discouraged, you feel very put off, you feel very much inferiority complex about yourself. And you feel like you are good for nothing. Then it is better to keep away and look for association that is uplifting. One can look for another association. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami Pada in Nectar of Devotion says that Sajatiya, Snigdha, Svatovara, 3 words is saying. Jai Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan ki. So Snigdha means affectionate. See, the ghee is also called snigdha. You have seen ghee, very cohesive and viscous, soft it is. It is very soft. Similarly, if your relationship with someone is soft, which means actually, as soon as you see that person, you want to come one step closer. You are excited, you are thrilled, you want that association. You feel blessed, you feel fortunate. You look forward for it. That type of association is called snigdha. And that association which you accept out of duty. Some Vaishnava may come, you may say, okay, let's come now, so I am supposed to deal nicely. And he may say, Hare Krishna, did you take prasad? Please take, that's all. And then there are other associations where you may, as soon as you see the person, you may like to turn your face and run away. Sometimes because it's non-uplifting association. So, therefore, in this section, particular verse, it is teaching us to, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in this commentary says that if somebody treats you like this, with raised eyebrows and angry eyes, they should be treated as an enemy, he says. So you may wonder, why is Chakravarti Thakur writing like this, that somebody should be treated as our enemy, while Prahlad Maharaj teaches us not to see a difference between friends and enemies. You may have a question. Why is Chakravarti Thakur giving commentary that we should see them as enemy? Actually, he is not just enemy to us, he is enemy to our progress in spiritual life. Actually, Krishna conscious devotees always see everything in terms of whether it is anukul for my bhakti or pratikul for my bhakti, that's all. It's not that he is enemy. In my current state of consciousness, he is enemy to me. When I become a pure devotee, I have no enemy. Like Narada Muni has been a pure devotee. So when he delivered the 10,000 Haryashvas and 1,000 Shavalasvas, his sons, when they came to Narayan Saras, he connected them all to the renounced order. And their father, who? The very same Daksha. He got wild. He was fuming with anger. At that time, Narada Muni went to him. So you may wonder that here it is, Lord Shiva is saying that such a person should be treated as an enemy. One shouldn't go to him. Whereas Narada Muni did go. Why did he go? Because Narada Muni had a plan in mind. He said, I delivered Dhruva, I delivered Prachina Parishad, I delivered the Prachetas, all these people, isn't it? But here is one person in the lineage, the family, who? Daksha Prajapati. Why should he be spared? I mean, Haryashvas, Shavalasvas are delivered also, no? Isn't it? So he thought that let this fellow also be delivered. So thinking like that, Narada Muni thought, if I go to him now and show my face, so how will be his response? It will be very deadly. So he is going to be wild on me, and Narada understood that let him be wild on me. Because Narada Muni is like a shock absorber. He has so much of love of God, flooding with love of God. Any amount of negativity you throw on him, it's like water sprinkled on a hot tawa. If there is a hot frying pan, you throw some water, immediately it will absorb it. So no amount of negativity can touch him. Anybody can try to discourage him, anybody can show him weapons. Like once His Holiness Indradumna Swami Maharaj in his travels, some dacoits attacked with their knives, but all around him devotees were there. And Maharaj had kartals in his hand, both the kartals started whirling like this. And it hit the head of the dacoits and they ran away after that. So, of course later on one dacoit was hiding. Still he wanted to come and insult Maharaj. Other fellows ran away. They thought he's a very strong person. Like that. So, you will see that if you have such an encounter, the fear will remain with you for weeks together. But he was fearless in the next moment. So, great devotees, you will see that they know how to take the negativities of the world in such a way like a drop of water which you throw on a lotus leaf. It will never touch them at all. So Narada Muni, as soon as he reached Daksha Prajapati strongly insulted him. He said, here comes Narada, who thinks he is a sadhu. But let me tell you the truth, he is an asadhu, he said. Why? I am the real sadhu, he said. And what is the reason he gave? Nana bhuya na janati puman vishaya tikshnatam Nirvidyate swayam tasmat na tatha bhinnadhi paraihi. This is the verse he said. He said, do you people think that I am not endeavoring for renunciation? He said, I will accept married life, I'll beget children, go through the course of married life in this world, and then I will develop renunciation when I come to Vanaprastha stage, and then I will renounce the world and go on. That is very organic, that's very natural. On the contrary, this Narada has artificially induced renunciation into my sons, and he has brought them to superficial renunciation. In this way, he has cheated them by spoiling these innocent boys. So Narada spoke Daksha spoke like this and said, he didn't give a chance to these boys to see the sharpness of material enjoyment. Because once people see the sharpness of material enjoyment, how it produces suffering, they will get so frustrated that the renunciation will automatically arise in their heart. Like that he said. Appears very true, isn't it? Actually, what Daksha says is not totally untrue, it's partially true. This is true for a jnani or a yogi, not for a bhakta. For a bhakta who has developed the higher taste, the Vasudeva Parayana, for them actually they don't have to see the sharpness of material enjoyment to renounce it. Rather, like you will find in the path of Bhakti Yoga, even a young boy, Prabhupada says, develops such a higher taste, he stops watching cinemas, he stops going to restaurants, clubs, movies, drinking, smoking, everything evaporates in one moment when he becomes Krishna conscious. Prabhupada writes in Nectar of Devotion. So, these boys, Hariyasha Shaulasa said, no taste at all for material enjoyment. And they had truly developed renunciation. They were not induced with the renunciation by Narada. But that was unknown to whom? Daksha Prajapati. Therefore he was speaking foolishly. So, but although he spoke foolishly, claiming himself a sadhu, and Narada as a sadhu, do you think Narada got broken down to tears? That cannot happen with Narada. Narada, he was just standing, tad badam, he said. Very nice, very correct. That's all he says, he just accepted. And after pouring out, after all the things, whatever he wanted to say, Daksha Prajapati, he got exhausted. Now he ran out of words now. And that was the plan of Narada. Narada spoke like that. Why? Because when Daksha spoke like that, Narada's idea was, after he's exhausted with his offenses to me, insults to me, then he will become repentant, humble. And when the humility comes, that's the right platform for him to receive devotional service. And that's where I will preach to him. This was a plan with which Narada went. Amazing now. So you can see two opposite situations here. The very same Daksha, Lord Shiva tells Sati that you should not go because your father, if he raises his eyebrows and looks at you with an angry glance, and you are not welcome in that place, to go to such a place is not at all wise, he says. So a Madhyamadhikari, for example, should not have such an encounter. But a Uttamadhikari can deal even with demons also. Narada was a friend of Hiranyakashipu. Narada was a friend of Kamsa. Dhira, adhira, janapriyau, priyakarau. He is friend of everybody. Pure devotees are friend of all jivas. We are not, because we can be at the most, at the moment, we are Kanishta to Madhyam or Madhyamadhikari maximum. So the Madhyamadhikari stage, it is said, Ishvare tad adineshu balisheshu dvishachucha prema maitri kripopeksha yakkaroti samadhyamaha. Upeksha means one should keep a long distance from those who are envious, who are khala we call, no? Dveshi or envious to God, Lord or the devotees. One has to keep away from such association. Why? If you don't keep away, many things will happen. For example, Kaikeyi did not keep away from mantra. And the result, you know what happened. Isn't it? Ajamila did not keep away from the bad sight that he saw in the forest. Similarly, if one faithfully hears from a so-called Vaishnava who is a hypocrite or a pseudo-Vaishnava, who is not practicing properly, who is Sahajya or who is Mayavadi, is affected by Mayavadis, or one who has gone astray from Vaishnava association and indulging in breaking the regulative principles, one should not associate with them. Because if you show sympathy to them, thinking that, oh, they are also wearing tilak, they are also wearing kantimala, nobody is showing sympathy, so I will show sympathy. In the course of showing your sympathy, you will also become one. One will become degraded by them. Bad association. Therefore, one is warned that one should avoid such association. Similarly, if somebody is a dveshi, somebody is a khala, then one should keep away if one is a madhyamadhikari. Of course, you can be away, but you can pray for them from a distance. That will benefit whom? Both. Because I am praying for him, he will also benefit. And because I am keeping away, I will also benefit. So both are saved by that. But when we interact, by interacting, I am making him commit more offenses. And I am also indulging in dosh katha. Because of that, I may also degrade by that bad association. One should keep away. So that's precisely what Shiva is trying to tell her. That Sati, your standard is such that you will not be able to tolerate the behavior of Daksha when you go there. It won't be very good for you to go. So Sati is trying to kind of persuade Shiva. She's saying that even a tiger loves its cubs. What to speak of human beings? Everybody has a natural love for kith and kin. Even if somebody is a very strong-natured person, if you go close, you will see he has affection for his mother, father, wife, children. That's what she is trying to persuade him. But then Prabhupada gives the example, but the tiger sometimes eats the cubs also, sometimes. Dog or a tiger, sometimes it is seen. Similarly, a rakshak can become bhakshak. Rakshak actually means protector. Bhakshak means enjoyer. So one who is supposed to offer shelter, protection, he can become an exploiter. Like for example, if once a woman wanted to complain in the police station that somebody looted her husband and beat him up and they kidnapped him also. So the police, looking at her, that she is good looking, they said, we can help you get your husband provided you agree to enjoy with us. She was thinking, "Arey fool, somebody is trying to beat my husband to take me away. Somehow I am saved now. He is kidnapped somewhere, I am searching. And now if you want to enjoy, what is the difference between those fellows and you? Those are bhakshak, police is rakshak, isn't it? But if police also becomes bhakshak, isn't it? They also become exploiter. Therefore, we are living in a very dangerous material world where somebody is supposed to give us a shelter, but the shelter giver himself becomes an exploiter. It's a very painful thing. And therefore people feel betrayed. Especially in the spiritual path, we have to know that we have to be people of character, people of purity, people of faithfulness and loyalty, not only for our own going back to Godhead. We also have to remember that we are giving faith to many people who are put in touch with us by Krishna's arrangement. There may be 1,000 people whom we are connecting to Guru Parampara, and we are an in-between agent. If the agent becomes person of lacking character, then it not only affects his going back to Godhead, but also affects all the people who are putting the faith. Like somebody became a devotee and by a sannyasi, guru, and then if they fall away, they may have 3,000 disciples, but when they fall, only 500 remains. Other 2,500 go away because they lost faith. So therefore, it's a very important thing. Here, Daksha is in the position of a father. So a father actually is a shelter provider and he is also a protector. And Lord Shiva is a husband. So naturally, husband is also a protector, shelter provider for the wife. So these personalities have to be very careful and they can't behave erratically. So if they behave erratically, they fall from the standards of their position in which they are put. They can cause greater damage than small people. See, big people can cause more damage than small people. Like for example, if you take a small stone and put it from here to here, the damage will be very less. But imagine there's a big mountain which has a base like this type of base, and if that falls on the ground, Naturally, many are affected. The more you become a bigger shelter provider, you give up your standards, then we cause more damage. Come down. So, therefore, Shiva is telling that he is a big fellow. Who? Daksha Prajapati. He is a Brahmana and is very recognized by Brahma and all of the demigods, many sages, many rishis, all are coming for the yajna. But he is very proud. One is not supposed to be proud. Yajante nama yajneste dhambe na vidhi purvakam. Krishna says, no, the dambha. Dambha is actually pride. So, he is not in a good state of consciousness and it is not good for us to associate with him. Nor did he invite us. Even if we go, he will not receive us well, like that Shiva is telling. And that's what precisely happened when Sati would go now, subsequently. Because of her insistence, she decided to go. And all her other sisters were there. All the sisters, as well as her mother, with glistening eyes and a big smile on their face, they all came and embraced Sati. But Sati didn't care even a fig for that. Because she knew, who are they? They are my sisters only. My mother, their welcoming is nothing great for me. It is very obvious. Although they were coming and rightly embracing her and welcoming her, sisters and mother, her eyes were elsewhere. Where was it? She turned around and she was looking at Daksha's side. What is father doing? How is he welcoming? At that time, the Brahmanas were sitting in the Yajna Kunda around. They saw Sati coming. Sati is a very highly respectable personality in the family because she is married to Lord Shiva. So the Brahmanas immediately got up with a smile on their face with folded palms. They also wanted to welcome Sati. So they got up and when Daksha looked at them, they also sat down. They also turned their face away. They also couldn't welcome. Actually, they could only partially welcome her because they were afraid that Daksha may not like it. And Daksha knew that she has come. He didn't even look at that side. He turned his face away. What does that mean? Basically, he is telling her, who called you? I didn't call you. I didn't call your husband. We have already made up our mind not to give share to your husband. Share of the sacrifice, isn't it? So, who called you? Because husband and wife are half of body. Like Ardhanarishwar. Sati coming is like Shiva coming also. So he totally neglected her, and that's why you will see Sati got really broken down. She cried with a broken heart. At that time she realized what Shiva said is correct. So I did a mistake by going to that place. So you will see that Daksha's mind did not change even after committing the offense to Shiva in a previous circumstance. Over a period of time, he did not contemplate on his mistake. He did not consult the superiors. He did not seek any good advice. He did not make a plan to modify his consciousness. He didn't do the homework of, seeking forgiveness from Lord Shiva. All these steps have to be gone through for one to cleanse the aparadha account which has come on him. But now, instead of doing all those positive, vital, spiritual steps, Daksha is becoming proud for no good reason, you can see. How unfortunate. How unfortunate. Yeah, he is actually hurting himself more and hurting others also more. So, therefore, as Prabhupada writes in the purport, sometimes as a tiger may eat the cub. Similarly, even if one happens to be relative, and if they are not of good character, they are not good to associate with. See, imagine if one of your superior is having a raised eyebrow and showing angry glance, what you should do? You better avoid the association of such people. Shastras doesn't say that. What Shastra says, Lord Vishnu tells the Kumaras while speaking to them, if a Brahmana chastises you, one with a smiling face, folded palms, and eyes glistening with gratitude, should thank the Brahmana for chastising them, understanding that the Brahmana is always sharply speaking to instruct us, speaking the truth for purifying us and elevating us. That should be the consciousness of anybody. This is not only for a Brahmana, this is not only for Guru or not only for a superior. That should be the attitude of one. So, in fact, one should feel sorry for enraging the superiors. Like once Durvasa Muni gave a garland to our Indra. And Indra, what he did? He gave it to the elephant. An elephant put it below the feet and trampled over it. Then Durvasa Muni became furious. So what should Indra do? He also should become furious? No. We should fall at his feet and beg for forgiveness. And for having committed the mistake. So when great souls are enraged, we should immediately take a very humble position. And you will find all through the Puranas, you will find people take a humble position as soon as they knew that they made a mistake. Like that. There are examples, like I was recently speaking on this demons in Vrindavan Leela. Practically every demon in the previous life, if you see, they did some mistake. Like one fellow, he came to one of the Guru's ashrama, and the Guru's ashrama side there was a river flowing. And the Guru's ashrama is a holy place. There are tulasis everywhere. It's a hermitages are there. And all sages are sitting and meditating, mantras are being chanted, Lord is being worshipped, and the river is flowing. It's a very serene setting, very ideal place for tapas, like a tapovanam. And this fellow came to the side of the ashram, and he started catching fishes and eating in that place, eating part of it and throwing here and there, making the place unclean. Some saintly people told him, hey, nobody catches fishes here. It's a holy place. Why are you doing it? Get away from here. He didn't listen. He thought he's very mighty, very powerful. So when the leader of the sages came, so he cursed him to become a crane. He said, since you are not listening to anybody, good advice, so you become a crane, because crane eats fishes. You become a crane to eat. Then he fell at the feet of the sage and said, I'm sorry. Please tell me what I should do now. He said, okay, Lord Krishna will deliver you, don't worry. So he became Bakasura later on. So in this way, every fellow you will find, they seek some forgiveness, and then eventually they may, if sages are enraged, their anger is also considered holy. Holy anger, blessing in disguise. Like that is explained in the 10th canto, 10th chapter. When Narada Muni saw Nalakur Manigriv completely undressed, drinking liquor and trying to delight in Jalakrida with women, Devis, Narada Muni was surprised. How can the demigod, the Kubera demigod's two sons, grown-up sons, behave like this? Because they have become very proud. They are Rudrastyanucharau. They are associates of Shiva, and Sudruptau means they are very proud. So they are behaving in an intoxicated fashion. I will dismiss their intoxication by cursing them to become trees. So there is a question asked and answer is given there. How can sages become angry for such small things? Then the answer is given that actually sages' anger is auspicious for the world because they never desire any harm to anybody. Their anger is actually meant for purifying and elevating the conditioned souls. So although Narada exhibited anger, he cursed them to become two trees where? In Vrindavan, just behind the house of Krishna. Actually, Krishna didn't appear at that time. They became trees long before. After many hundreds of years, after that only Krishna appeared. But Narada exactly knew where Krishna will appear, and he made them trees there only. So, right from Krishna's appearance and childhood pastimes, Krishna Balaram catching the tail of calves and being dragged in the dust of Raja along with mixed with the Gobar, Yashoda and Rohini laughing, and all that they got to see. From childhood and Makanchor Leela and the Okal Bandhan Leela, everything they got to see. So what do you think? Is it a curse or a blessing? So it's a blessing in disguise, we call it. So they got a blessing in disguise. So similarly, how did Kaliya not get killed by Krishna? Rather he was delivered. See, Aghasura was killed, Bakasura was killed, isn't it? They were all killed because they were sent by whom? Kamsa. Whereas Kaliya was not killed. Why? Because Kaliya got a beating by the wings of Garuda. Pat. Now, Garuda bit him. Because he was slapped by a devotee, Krishna didn't want to kill him. Devotee gave him mercy and sent him. Another reason why Kaliya was not killed is he came and took shelter of Yamuna. How can somebody who is taking shelter of Yamuna, one of the great devotees of Krishna, be killed? He took shelter of Yamuna. So twin advantage he had, two advantages he had. One is he was slapped by Garuda while in the fight, and he took shelter of Yamuna. So therefore, similarly, Saubhari Muni also, although he fell down, later on he became Krishna's devotee, along with the 50 wives. And they all went back to Godhead because he took shelter of Yamuna also. He lived underwater, no? Yeah. So in this way, even if you have a negative encounter with a devotee, you only stand to gain. Now you see, our Jagai Madai had a positive encounter or negative encounter with Nityananda Prabhu? Negative encounter. What was the result? They got love of God. So, in case, therefore, if you read the book Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani, he says that when one is a neophyte devotee is very proud, Atmano Bhakti Darpadha, I am a very great devotee, he thinks like that. So when he goes to pure devotees are very straightforward and simple, and they will tell the truth right on the face. So a neophyte devotee can get hurt if one is not very advanced. Hey, how can you think I am fallen or something? So they can do, one thing they can do is they can commit offense to pure devotees or advanced devotees. And by that offense, eventually they leave devotion service and go away. That's one thing can happen. Another thing that can happen is, they may see an advanced devotee scolding them, then they may give up their association and refuse to associate with them. And they may associate with those who flatter them. That is the second thing they may do. Because they may not offend them because of fear that they are advanced devotees. Better not offend them. But I will keep away from them and associate with those who pamper me. That is one second thing they can do. Is it not true? But the third thing they can do is persist in associating with them, be willing to hear the scolding and criticism, and then they will be like a gold put in fire. Then they can become purified. So His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj was talking recently in Pune. One devotee asked a question to him that, modern times there is a wave in our ISKCON society that we should not preach strongly, because now we are living in the new age culture. We should actually, talk very sweetly and lovingly in caring way, so that, people slowly agree to come to Govindas and then come to temple hall and then take prasadam and hear the kirtans, and then slowly we can introduce them to Krishna. So, and then Maharaj said, yes, that kind of wave is there. And then he said, they call it as a bridge preaching, Maharaj was telling. But the problem is that I have seen, Maharaj said, they say bridge preaching, they bring the people to the bridge and they just hang around in the bridge. They never go to the other side. They never take them to Krishna. They don't take them also to Krishna, and they also don't go to Krishna. Both are hanging around in the bridge and having a nice time. For years together, whole life, he was telling. And then Maharaj said, I wouldn't advocate either this type of bridge preaching or strong preaching. Every one of us has a different nature, he said. Whatever it takes to bring a person to Krishna, you can do. Like that he said. And then he told, I'll tell you one example, how Prabhupada's preaching was very strong. But that did not drive people away, rather it brought people to people to Krishna. And then he gave example. There was a very rich man, millionaire, big fellow, very proud fellow, people thought. So they brought him to Prabhupada once. So when Prabhupada talked to him, and that fellow said, Swamiji, I'm eating well, I have cars, I have bungalows, I have big businesses, I am very happy. What is the need of taking to spiritual life? Like that he was asking. Prabhupada said, see, look at the pig he showed in the road. See, pig is also very stout. He is eating stool and he must be happy, otherwise why is he fat? And then Prabhupada said, what is the difference between you and the pig? He asked like that. And that man immediately thought, yeah, there is no difference. And Prabhupada said, you are eating, he is eating. You are sleeping, he is sleeping. You are mating, he is mating. You are defending, he is defending. What is the difference? And then he said, yes, Swamiji, no difference. Therefore, we are teaching you to become enlightened and make a difference by attaining self-realization, like the Prabhupada said. And then he became a devotee. So Prabhupada, you see, Prabhupada actually spoke to the heart of the living entities. He could connect with people like that. So, to put it simply, we can say that you preach strongly or preach softly, but goal should be what? You should prove that at the end you have brought them to the lotus feet of Krishna. By your soft preaching, you are hanging around in the bridge, you are cheating. Or by your strong preaching, people are put off and they run away from Krishna. That is also cheating. We are not doing this service properly. And, so we have to uplift the people, not downgrade them. So in this way we should bring people to Krishna. So the saintly person, saintly people, they are straightforward, they speak the truth. That's one of the meanings of a saintly person. But that straightforward presentation, speech actually should enlighten the people, switch on the light, and then bring them closer to Krishna's lotus feet. You will see why Shiva is telling her not to go. There is one reason. Because people like Daksha, even if they behave sweetly in some occasion, you can't take it seriously, because people with uncontrolled senses cannot be trusted. Because now they may be good, suddenly they will erupt with erratic behavior. And that you find in the case of Kamsa. Kamsa, when he picked up the 7th girl who was born to Devaki, he caught the legs of the child and then he lifted the child like this to beat on the rock. When he lifted the child flew up in the sky. And then there she showed the form of Durga Devi with the 10 hands. And then he started trembling. Oh, this is my goddess whom I worship. He fell flat on the ground. And then he looked at Devaki and said, Devaki, my sister, you have begotten such a powerful Durga in your womb. So not only I should worship her, I should worship even you also, because you have given birth to such a powerful personality. Why the demigods have cheated me? They said your 8th child will be a boy who will kill me, but here I am finding a girl. That means even demigods speak lies, he was telling. Little did he know that Krishna is born elsewhere, born and sent elsewhere. So, after Durga Devi spoke and disappeared, Kamsa literally fell at the feet of Devaki and Vasudeva, begged for forgiveness. With his own hands, he removed their chains from the hands and legs and immediately opened jail and told the watchman, please take them to a palace, let them live very happily. And he cried tears and everything. And then he spoke to Vasudeva, I am very, very sorry. And then he told, don't worry, although you have 6 children, I killed your 6 children, the soul never dies, the soul is always permanent. They have to attend the next body. And then Vasudeva looked at him and said, hey Maharaja, hey Mahabhaga, he calls like that. So 2 meanings are given. Maharaja means, oh great king. He respected him as a great king. Mahabhaga means, oh most fortunate one, because you have realized your folly, your mistakes. Whereas Chakravarti Thakur has given a different meaning. He says that Maha-araja, he says. Maha-abhaga. Maha-abhaga means, oh most unfortunate one. Or Maha-araja, he says that actually one who is crooked and cruel, one who is great in cruelty, like that he calls him like that. Why? Because because you are identifying with your body, your very good speech will not last long. Because a person who has acted against the Hari, Guru and Vaishnavas and earned their curse, such a person actually becomes completely eclipsed by ignorance. He loses all good intelligence. And therefore, when good intelligence is gone, then one becomes blind to the truth. One cannot actually see the truth. In Sattva-guna, you can clearly see the truth with clarity. In Tama-guna, one becomes blind to the truth. And because he is afflicted by Rajoguna, he adopts the diverse ways for acting whimsically. So, see, Tamoguna makes us blind and Rajoguna makes us act whimsically. So, such a person actually is uncontrolled in his senses. Today he may behave well and tomorrow he will change his mind. And that's what precisely happened with Kamsa. Like the night he spoke like this, very humble and falling at the feet and all that. Next day morning his whole mind changed. It's called swinging moods, we call it. Because when he met his ministers, they told, what are you talking, king? You are surrendering to your sister and brother-in-law and all. What is the need of this? Don't you know, all demigods, when they see you, they put their mukut at your lotus feet and they run away from there out of fear of you. They said, none of the demigods can stand your strength and we all are there with you to support you. And they said, Lord Vishnu, he is always hiding in the heart of jivas out of fear of you, he said. See, is it easy to hide in the heart of millions of jivas? he said, or we have heard that he is hiding in the milk ocean, sleeping in a snake bed and never would come out of that place out of fear of you. And they were saying like that. And you see, Lord Brahma, he has done a lot of austerities for a long time. He is afraid to fight with you due to fear of losing his tapobalam. Generally, people who are very austere are very keen to preserve their austerity, fruits of their austerity. So he is not ready to fight with you. He will not even come for fighting with you. Sir. And Indra is, darpok. He always fears. He and all demigods will be fearful of you. Nothing to worry for you. We are all there. And they said, we want to make sure Lord Vishnu, the demigods, and all the agents of Brahminical culture should be wiped out. And then they said, there is one clue we have found out. We should kill the Brahmanas. They said, why? Because if you kill only the cows, Brahmanas will still chant the Vedic mantras. If you still destroy the Vedas, the Brahmanas are such powerful fellows, they are Shrutidhar, they remember the Vedas. Even if you destroy the books, they keep reciting the mantras still. So there is no use destroying the Vedas, or destroying the cows, or destroying the demigods also. Why? Because the Brahmanas are the ones who ultimately take all the agents of Brahminical culture and give complete nourishment to all of them and life to them and offer to Vishnu. Therefore, Vishnu is getting portion or nourishment from whom? From the Brahmanas. So this Brahmana should be destroyed. So they said, first we will destroy the Brahmanas, then the cows. Then there is no need to destroy demigods because they won't get any sacrifices. When they don't get any sacrifice, they will not get any offerings. And Vishnu resides in the Brahmanas. So Brahmanas are finished, then Vishnu will not reside. There will be atheism that will prevail in the world. And when Kamsa heard it, he said, Sabash, very intelligent fellows. They are giving me good advice. Again he swung back to square A by becoming as demoniac as before, or probably we can say even more demoniac, we can say. So what lesson we learned in our lives? If we face such a swinging moods in our life, that means we have uncontrolled senses, an uncontrolled mind. We are swinging between forgiveness and anger, revengeful attitudes, and again, feelings of remorse. We are not able to become steady in our life because we have to come to Sattva Guna to become very steady. In Sattva Guna, one can see things as they are. And also one has to cultivate the Daivi Sampat, divine qualities. Therefore, the cultivation of divine qualities and Sattva Guna are very easily achieved by one who takes to the chanting process inoffensively, very attentively and inoffensively, seriously, because the inoffensive chanting washes out all the misgivings in our heart very quickly. Jannam Shruti Matrena Puman Bhavati Nirmalaha. This was coincidentally spoken by Durvasa Muni to Ambarish Maharaj. Jannam Shruti Matrena Puman Bhavati Nirmalaha. He says that the heart becomes cleansed by the chanting of the holy name. So when bad qualities are washed out, then we can attain the proper state of a Vaishnava's consciousness, which is very forgiving. Vaishnava's heart is one of forgiveness. Vaishnava's heart is one of flexibility, adaptability, and willing to listen, and willing to give up the bad qualities. And Vaishnavas are supposed to be not unnecessarily raising the eyebrows and throwing an angry glance at anyone. They are supposed to be a friend of everybody. Dhira, Adhira, Janapriya. One has to come to the stage. Till we come to that stage of becoming friend of all jivas, by seeing them all as our brothers and sisters, till that stage, one can avoid bad associations that can degrade our consciousness. That may not be uplifting to us. Rather, we should look for uplifting association that can actually bring us one step closer to Krishna. That's the main lesson here. So Lord Shiva is warning her, if you go to your father's house, it won't be uplifting association for you. Rather, it will actually demoralize you, discourage you, and defeat the purpose of Krishna consciousness. So it's better to keep away from such bad association. Like that Shiva is very politely explaining to her. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki.